Buenos días, le de Dios. Buenas tardes. Hello, I'm Rob Martinez, State Historian of New Mexico, and this is New Mexico History in 10 Minutes. By the 1870s and 1880s, New Mexico had become a very dangerous place. The railroad had really changed things economically, politically, demographically. There were a lot of lawyers, politicians, ranchers, farmers, and villains, criminals coming to New Mexico and to the West, looking for easy pickings, looking for a way to get rich without having to work hard. Let's be fair, a lot of hardworking, honest people came to New Mexico along the Santa Fe Trail, but many came that weren't of that quality. It's dangerous for honest Americans coming here. It's a dangerous place for the Mexican New Mexicans. It's a dangerous place for the native peoples, the Puebloan people, the Apache, Navajo, the Comanche people. It's dangerous all the way around. And to come and live in New Mexico around 1880, you needed to carry a gun. Many of the barkeepers in places like Las Vegas, New Mexico, would put up a sign, something like, "Don't shoot the musicians. They're doing the best they can." As a musician, I find that very, disturbing and also comforting. Nevertheless, it shows us that New Mexico had become an epicenter for certain criminal activity. In the mid-1870s, you had the Colfax County War, which was a conflict over access to land. The Maxwell Land Grant had ranchers, but also there were squatters, people claiming access to common lands. And it got violent, as you can imagine, when gunslingers came into the picture and started to get involved. We see that in the late 1870s with the Lincoln County War, where you have different factions of Irish and British people fighting in New Mexico, and then you get gangs of gunfighters being used as soldiers in this economic, political, and physical war. The most famous and infamous of these was William Bonney, also known as Billy the Kid. His legend looms large. He's one of the most important, one of the most famous, and one of the most exciting personas in New Mexico's history. He came from New York, we think. His name was William Bonney, we think. What we do know is that he comes to southern New Mexico where he works on ranches and then ultimately turns to robbery as a living. He also is one of the gunfighters in the Lincoln County War. And so he is also notorious for having supposedly killed upwards of 20 people. The truth is, it was closer to between 5 and 10, some of them in gunfights with many different people shooting in many different directions. Well, by about 1878, New Mexico's government, court system, and ranch economy is in a shambles because of all of this fighting and all of this violence. Governor Lew Wallace is appointed governor of New Mexico around 1879 after investigations show that somebody needs to come in to clean up this mess. Governor Wallace is an interesting guy. He's a seemingly gentle character. He likes to paint and write. Nonetheless, he goes about trying to clean up this mess. His wife isn't impressed with New Mexico. She, in a letter, echoes a previous military leader's comment that the United States should go back to war with Mexico and make Mexico take New Mexico back. So he nonetheless starts to go after all of these criminal elements in New Mexico, and Billy the Kid threatens to go to Santa Fe and shoot Governor Wallace. Well, Governor Wallace does a lot of things in New Mexico. One of the most interesting is that he writes a novel, Ben-Hur, which will later be turned into movies, and one starring Charlton Heston. But he wrote Ben-Hur, and ultimately, New Mexico is not to his liking, and he is reassigned to go do some work in the Ottoman Empire, somewhere on the other side of the world. The Lincoln County Wars sizzle out, fizzle out even. Um, Sheriff Pat Garrett is sent to deal with Billy the Kid and ultimately shoots him. I think Billy the Kid's like only 21 years old, so his career as an outlaw in New Mexico is actually quite short lived. New Mexico starts to reach the end of the 19th century, and there starts to be a certain amount of stabilization. Nonetheless, there is still violence. There are standoffs between El Fuego Baca and something like 80 gunslingers. There are violent acts in Albuquerque and in Santa Fe and places like Taos and again Las Vegas. New Mexico is considered a very violent and dangerous place to be in this period. And yet, we see people coming here. People start to come here, contrary to Governor Lew Wallace's wife's disdain for New Mexico. It is actually a place that starts to attract different kinds of people from places like the Midwest and the East Coast and the South as well. One such place is a town that's established in the early 1900s called Blackdom. It's established by Black Americans from the South who are attracted to New Mexico because there are no Jim Crow laws. Actually, one of the ads in a newspaper says just that. Dr. Timothy Nelson has done some amazing research about this community. The people come here, they settle in southeastern New Mexico out near the area of Roswell and Hagerman. And it's a rural community where there's a church, there's a library, there are government buildings, and of course homes. Ultimately, though, the community faces a problem because there are problems with the aquifer, with access to water. And initially, there were ideas that these people dispersed and just left. But Dr. Nelson's research shows that they actually were very business oriented. They were entrepreneurs, and they get involved in the oil business in that area. And many do end up leaving. They don't disappear. They're still with us. They're part of us. It's part of our story. They end up in places in the Las Cruces area and areas north. But New Mexico starts to spread its wings and spread out as peaceful negotiations between warring factions start to take root. You see people spreading out from the Rio Grande Valley into places like the Mora Valley or Las Vegas, and then even further east to places that will become Tucumcari and Santa Rosa, Clayton, and up into the northwest, places like Farmington and Cuba, and then west, towns start to be established in places like Grants and Gallup, and then south, Silver City, Deming, Lordsburg, all of these places, Hobbs, Carlsbad. New Mexico starts to take shape, the New Mexico we know, because of contributions from different peoples of various different backgrounds, Americans of diverse ethnic backgrounds, New Mexicans who've been here for centuries. And so this is New Mexico around the year 1900. Thank you. We'll start talking about New Mexico in the 20th century next episode. See you next time. Hasta pronto. Bye.